Welcome, everybody. First of all, I wanted to introduce our two very, very special guests. That is Elizabeth Lev. Thank you so much, Liz, for being here today. Liz is actually a speaker, an author. She is an art historian. She is a guide as well, a guide of Rome. She actually lectures at a university. You will tell us more about that. And we also have Damien O'Farrell. So Damien, welcome, welcome. Damien is Irish, but he actually lives in Rome, has been living in Rome for 32 years. And you are a global mobility specialist. You will tell us more about this because I don't think many people know what that means.
Okay.
And an expat coach.
Exactly.
Liz, I forgot to say, you're actually in Rome, but you are American by birth. So you were born in America, but you've been here for many, many years. I also introduced myself. My name is Katja Hansel. My background is German. I'm actually from Germany, but I live in Rome, Italy. Have been here for over 22 years. And I am a coach, a business coach, a motivational trainer. I am also an NLP master practitioner, and I'm a mom and an entrepreneur. So a lot of different things. In any case, I'm very, very excited about our webinar today. It is actually called the Travel Revolution because travel will be revolutionized, and so will we. We need to kind of change ship, basically. We need to change something in our system to get through this really difficult time. If you all agree, the service industry and also the travel industry will be the ones to pick up last. So we need to be strong. We need to think out of the box. And so we also need to change our mindset to positive thinking and a lot of different things. By the way, today is Rome's birthday. Rome was born, I lost count. Liz, maybe you remember how many hundreds of years ago, 2,773
today. 2000, it's 753 BC. I think that makes it 2,773 years old.
Okay. So thank you. I'm not very good at math, so thank you for doing the calculation here. So I would like to welcome our audience. Please type into the chat that you're here. I believe you're already doing this. Tell us where you're from. Okay, so we know where you're connecting from. Later on, if you have any questions for Damien, for Liz, or myself, please feel free to write them down in the chat, and then we will try to answer as many questions as possible. All right? Okay, super. So Liz, let's start with you. You've been in the travel business for quite a number of years now. I met you, we actually used to live in the same area. You have been in the travel business for how long now? For like 20, 25 years?
Yep.
27.
20-something.
Oh, 20-something. Oh, wow.
Good with dates for a long time ago, not so good with my own dates.
For a long, long time in any case. And so this is a very unusual time for all of us right now. Tell us how your business or your life has actually changed ever since, and how you're keeping up your spirits and how you keep positive and so on.
Well, as a tour guide, I teach at a university. I teach on-site classes. So basically, my existence exits the house at 7:30 in the morning. I get home at 7 in the evening, and I spend all my time in the monuments of Rome. So, I think it's a very good thing that not for one second did I ever underestimate what it meant for the Sistine Chapel to be my office, as it were. So the memories and the storing up of the amount of time I spent in the city, I'm certainly not sitting there going, oh gosh, I wish I'd got to the Trevi Fountain. But obviously, as you can imagine, for people in the tour guide business, that has bottomed out entirely. So On one hand, I'm fortunately I'm a university professor, so I, like you, many hats. There are other things that I do, but my friends, my colleagues, so people I don't know, but I know had just started. They put all of their chips into the tour guiding basket. The last thing you would expect to bottom out. Our problem in Rome was too many tourists, not who would have ever imagined such a thing. So it's been quite a surprise. On the other hand, when you think about it, there was another common complaint you heard among all tour guides, everybody working in the tour business, pretty much everywhere. The same complaint was, we are overrun. We are with the Vatican museums, the Colosseum, the Uffizi, the Louvre. These are sites that cannot handle the amount of people who are cramming in there. And the experience that people are having, crowding off these tour ships, crowding into these museums. People weren't. It was just a sort of a crazed mass consumption. So I think I keep thinking that when we come out the other side of this, there is going to be a very positive impact, and that we will start thinking about tourism, first of all, as a privilege instead of a right. When we first started to see people touring in the 18th century, it really was the grand tour. It was seen as something that was a privilege, something that it was something wonderful to be able to go to another place, and you brought respect to that experience. I think it'll be interesting to see if that returns in the world of tourism.
Yeah. So you're actually saying that people are putting all of what they have into the guiding, no? And they don't necessarily have a second leg to stand on, or a second income.
Well, I'm talking about, how many guides do we have in the city? We have 5,000 in the city. We've been making guides.
I mean, there are a lot of guides. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We have a huge number of guides, and a lot of people gave up professions that weren't looking very good in order to thrive. A lot of people bought taxi licenses too, but they threw their energies into this, and so they've seen their work bottom out. With my colleagues, one of the things that we have thought to do to try to, we know it's going to stay closed for a while, and Rome is not. You are right. The last thing that will open will be, the museums and the tour business. So one of the things we've been doing is preparing online courses. So I've been trying to help everybody shift to a new way of presenting the city, and I'm very hopeful that working as a team, bringing together good people, creating a nice product that will be able to, especially the people who really don't have another job, will be able to move forward.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Damien, tell us a little about your profession. Like, what does an expat coach and a global
mobility specialist do? Okay, well, as you said at the beginning, I've been in Rome almost 32 years, and I started working with the expat community very early on, because in 1990 I created my first course, which was how to live and work successfully in Italy. And this year it will celebrate its 30th anniversary. It might not be live this year because normally I do it with an audience. It might be done through streaming this year, and that's fine. And a global mobility specialist basically follows a person's move to Italy. Okay, so when a company or an individual moves to Italy, the global mobility person will follow the entire process from the compliancy, which is the work permit, the residency permit, the housing. And then I incorporate into that also sometimes coaching, which is leading the person through cultural issues, finding work, starting a business. So basically it's a one-stop shop. I was very much involved with corporate relocation up to a few years ago. But if you've ever heard me as a guest on other podcasts, all I'm ever talking about is you need to future-proof yourself, okay? I'd say it all the time. If everybody's going left, you need to go right, okay?
That's a great suggestion. I like that. I mean, you're somewhat of a jack of all trades, just like Elizabeth, no? I mean, I think Liz is a jack of all trades because you have so many hats, as you said, and so do you, Damien. When I spoke to you the other day, you actually were so full of inspiration, I found, because you said, oh, you could do this or you could do that. I mean, give us a few of the ideas that you had of what people could do, how they could reinvent themselves now that we're all stuck and people are still sort of frozen, no? They are still in the waiting mode rather than in the action mode, because they're all kind of waiting for tourism to come back, but that's not going to happen in a lot of months. I mean, thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When we spoke the other day, we touched on that. The expression that kind of I don't like to hear a lot is business as usual, because I think it's business as usual that has caused several sectors and businesses to go into having issues. Okay, I think you have to try to be thinking one step ahead. But just to go one step back, I think that it's okay for people to acknowledge that they have fear or panic. Okay. There's also a lot of stuff going around the internet saying, okay, now you're in quarantine, so you need to just be getting on with it. You need to be motivated. You've got to be this, you've got to be, really out there. And there's truth to that. But it's also okay to say, I feel a little afraid about what's going on. But then you've slowly, and as much as possible, you need to move into the critical thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
And your critical thinking is doing things on a daily basis that will keep you alive in your business. I mean, I spoke to someone 2 days ago, just to give you an example, and she hasn't talked to any of her clients. And I said, well, why aren't you calling them? Saying, how are you? I'm still here. When we get up and running, this is what I plan on doing and whatever. You need to, what are your core skills? How can you market those more? Are you using the power of social media?
That's such a great suggestion, actually. Thank you for this, because I think, especially now, everyone needs to be in touch with their clients. That's what I do. That's what I would suggest to travel agents, travel consultants, to people, who work in the service industry with clients. Get in touch with them, write to them. It's all a matter of trust, no? Because a lot of the airlines, for instance, right now, they're going out of business. I mean, one of the German airlines, like the sister airlines of Lufthansa, I had booked a flight with them and I said, I'm sorry, no, we're out of business. You can't fly with us anymore. Okay, so that's exactly how clients feel, maybe with a travel agent. Maybe this travel agent won't be there anymore, so they all now want reimbursements and stuff like that. Rather than giving them their money back, tell them to accept a voucher to travel maybe next year or the year after that, and be in touch with your clients. No, that's a great suggestion that you just
and when you think of client, you may not travel through life with the same client all the time. Okay. Yeah. Your client may change. So this is a great opportunity to ask yourself, who is my client now? Okay. One of the reasons why I moved out of, let's say, general corporate relocation and moved more into bespoke relocation is because a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon. Everybody was becoming a relocation specialist. It became a little bit like coaching. Suddenly, everybody was doing relocation. Okay.
Or tour guiding.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But I only let qualified tour guides advertise in my Facebook group. Okay, because I appreciate the effort that people put into becoming a professional. And so I recognized that what was happening was it was all becoming about pricing. Okay. And once you get into that, you're on the race to the bottom, because there's always a false prophet who's going to say, I can do it for less and I can do more. Okay. And so I decided, okay, that's not really my ideal client anymore. I need to reach out to the people that appreciate white glove service. Okay.
Mhm.
And there are
Okay.
people that appreciate that. Because if you walk into Hermes, you don't expect to get a handbag for 400 euros. Okay. And Hermes is not targeting that audience. Okay.
Yeah.
So part of surviving, and I don't like to use the word surviving, but part of thriving is to really get granular on who you are selling your services to. Because if you're talking to everybody, you're almost not talking to anybody. Okay. And it's very important to define who is my client and where are the clients. I mean, if you notice, for example, Tesla doesn't advertise on television because they know that's not where their client is. Okay. And so that brings me to another thing that we can be doing, which is networking. Are you going to the right networking events? Okay. And I think that that's something that anybody who's attending this webinar that we're doing needs to reflect on that. Where are your clients? On what platforms are they on? Okay. Because if you're very active on Facebook, but your clients are not on Facebook, you're basically wasting time.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for this, Damien. Liz, winner or victim? That is the question. No, because a lot of people, they actually think they're victims right now. Victims of the situation, victims of our government that is actually keeping us locked up, and just victims. And all they do is complain, but it won't get us very far. So I think we need to have rather the winner mentality and say, okay, I accept that I'm being locked up. I accept the fact that tourism is down right now. And I'm going to take a deep breath, and then I start all over again. Actually, Damien said something like this. He actually talked about reset. We're going to get back to that in a minute, Damien. Okay. Now, Liz, you are a leader. You have always been a leader. I mean, you have had to tackle so many things in your life, and you've managed it brilliantly. I just watched again your TED talk on the World TED Talk. I mean, brilliant. You're just brilliant. You're one of the most intelligent women I know, I think, and you're really a role model.
Space in this box for my head if you keep going like that.
No, but it's true. I'm telling you the truth. I mean, more or less from afar, I've always watched you. So, and you're just amazing. So you are a leader. What can you tell the audience? Like, how can you become a leader in a situation like this? We're like stuck. And we need to start from scratch, maybe even, because especially guides or people in the service industry who have always been doing one thing and prepared to do one thing. How can we think out of the box? How can we step out and concentrate and focus on something else? Because obviously, people who guide others are leaders, no? But to pull that leader card out is not so easy sometimes. So how can we actually focus on something else?
So I have two thoughts on that. One is, as I have been thinking more and more, people who work in travel, touring, leisure, we have a great run of it. Most of us enter this business because we love it. So we're already in a kind of, we're talking about a little privileged percent of the world of people who love their jobs. So even if you create a tour business or you create this and it crashes and you have to rebuild it or rethink it or start all over again, you're building something you love. It's not unlike, dealing with your kid and then you think you've worked this whole thing out with your kid and then your kid goes and messes up and you got to start all over again. We have a tremendous advantage, those of us who work with. We see the best of people most of the time. These are people who are planning travel, planning something new. Maybe they get worried about things, but it's not quite the same thing as seeing people coming back from work at 7 p.m. in the grocery store, angry beyond belief and angry to be in line. We tend to see the best of people. We see the best of the world, and our job is to really bring the best to them. So I think that's a very strong, it's a strong motivation for us, because at the end of the day, we really have had the best, and we still are the gateway. It's not like someone else is introducing the Trevi Fountain to people. It's not like someone else is doing it. Not someone took our job. We just at this moment have to find other ways to do it. The other thing I found, again, having watched everything bottom out, having to teach classes to, you know, students who, it's one thing if I can stand them in front of a Caravaggio painting, I let Caravaggio do half the work because they're like, wow. It's another thing if I've got a bunch of students who are sitting, you know, looking at a Zoom picture going, why am I doing this anyway? And trying to like work the COVID thing, the angle of the COVID to their advantage. So my way of teaching had to change drastically in the space of 2 weeks. I had to learn a whole new way of doing it, which has been interesting and creative, by the way. When you see these new challenges, think of them, we have an artistic side, and part of our artistic side is problem solving. That's where our artistry comes in. So, you know, all of a sudden this incredible chore of figuring out how to do a Zoom class. Well, what if I try this? What if I insert this video? And all of a sudden I find myself having a good time preparing these. I don't know if my students have a good time watching them, but I'm having a good time preparing them. And then the other thing that I found is, you know, again, watching my business crumble to the ground. I mean, my tour business, so just refunds left and right, which, by the way, I agree with you with the vouchers, but honestly, in the panic-stricken mode, I just thought the best way to deal with the people who deal with me was to just cheerfully give them their money back. And just, you know, I understand it's COVID, you get, and those who are, I am convinced they will come back to me. I mean, obviously, if you have investments made and things already done, then you talk more about vouchers. But I found that writing these people, I wrote them an Easter message. I agree with you that being in contact with the people who have entrusted you with their touring, knowing that, you know, and just showing a total transparency in what you're doing has been a very important thing. But the most important thing of all, and this is the thing I would suggest to, you know, all of this, the world is so awful to me, and this is dreadful, and, you know, life is terrible, and how did this happen to me? Think outside yourself, right? So here I am in my house feeling sorry for myself because I wanted to do all these cool things. But I found that the minute I stopped worrying about me and I started thinking about, you know, I've got a friend who only does tours, and I wonder what she's doing and how she's doing and how I could help her out. I mean, the minute you stop thinking about you and you start thinking about the other, it takes a world of weight off you. And so I would say part of the problem with the people who are feeling like, you know, oh, my life is ended, is because you're looking in the mirror, you're internalizing too much. The best thing to do, and every saint in this city of Rome will tell you, is when the going gets tough, look outside and see who else you can help.
Very nice. Yeah. And stop watching the news.
Okay. I'm not taking that bait.
Damien, thank you. Damien, you were actually talking about resetting. Like, this is like a great moment, a great opportunity to reset yourself. And this also has a lot to do with mindset, with positive thinking, with gratitude and positivity, no? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, I think that's part of it. Okay. I mean, obviously, if you're watching the news all day long, you're going to get debilitated and paralyzed. Okay. And it just magnifies the fear and the panic. So, as I said, you've got to get into your critical thinking. Okay. And the critical thinking revolves around, what am I learning from this situation? Okay. Back in 2008, I went through the financial crisis. Okay. And what that taught me was there will always be a crisis. And one of the things you really need to work on is having a financial cushion. Okay. So that because we are very naive if we sit here and we say there's not going to be another crisis. There's going to be another crisis of some form or another. Okay. And And if we have worked on our financial cushion, we at least know, okay, well, I can weather this situation for a while in a much better situation. I think if you have a team, if you work with a team, as I have done, I think you have to be honest with your team. You have to empower them, but you also have to be honest with them. So if you've lost clients, you have to tell them that. If your revenue is down, you have to tell them that. So that they understand two things. First, they're going to be part of getting everybody out of this situation, and they're going to have to put their foot on the gas. Okay? Everyone is going to be part of getting out of this crisis mode. Okay? I think the positive thinking is very important, the affirmations, the meditations, but I'm very pragmatic. Okay. So I ask myself every day, okay, on a concrete basis, what can I do today that's going to save my business? Okay. And I bring it back to, are you invisible to the market? Okay. What are you doing every day to make yourself visible? Okay. What value are you bringing? And that's why I know I keep talking about this, but who's your client? And where is that client? And start putting together a strategy to reach that client that you have in mind. Okay. It might be a moment where you have to recreate completely your business. You might just have to retune your business a little bit, or you might just have to blow the whole thing up, and basically move in another direction. Okay. But you will only be able to do that if you step back and turn on your critical thinking. Networking is, the thing that kicks fear out the door is action. It's impossible to be in fear mode if you're taking action. Okay. But if you're just sitting around going, oh, how am I going to pay the electricity bill? Oh, the rent is due. That blocks you. There's no way you're going to be in critical thinking if they are your thoughts. So it's about action. What can I do today to really, one of the things I'm doing myself is I'm really putting a lot of my energy back into my mailing list. Okay. Because as much as I love the social media platforms, I don't own those platforms. So they can change their strategy at any minute. Okay. As you know, I have a Facebook group. But tomorrow, Facebook could wake up and say, we don't like groups anymore. We're getting rid of them.
Tell us briefly about your Facebook group. It's called Ultimate Italy.
My Facebook group is called Ultimate Italy. It's got almost 12,000 members, and it's for expats and Italians alike who love everything Italian. Okay. It's a no complaining zone. Okay. So if you want to come and complain about Italy and Italians or anything like that, you're not welcome. Okay. We gotta build each other up. Okay. Blaming the government and blaming this person and blaming that person, that doesn't get you to where you need to go. It really doesn't.
Thank you. Liz, I have a question for you. You have two adult daughters and a son. So what are the values that you are teaching, especially your girls who are now grown ups? No, I mean, what are the values, the core values?
Well, I think so there are different core values. Obviously, when they're as young women, I have values for them, which are honesty, integrity, a good work ethic. But I think this right now, the one that I've been thinking the most about is fortitude. It's a question. These are all virtues, and the cultivating of the virtue of going forward with a positive, cheerful outlook and not being caught up in the mire of whether it's the news cycle or the blame or the atmosphere, which I think, speaking directly and clearly, the atmosphere can be a little uncomfortable in this type of situation where, you have occasionally the problem of the people reporting other people, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a certain sense of antagonism which one finds in the streets in this situation. And, instead of getting bogged down of, when this is over, I'm going to get them, and that kind of, anxiety and anger towards the other, I think it's important just the fortitude is really continuing on your way and letting those things, fall by the wayside. So I think that's been one of in this particular moment, this is the virtue I've been trying to get them to cultivate and to try to make sure that their participation with the people around them brings out the best in themselves. I think my greatest concern in this, it's rare in human history. It's not that often that we get put to the test the way we're being put right now. Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you about the financial cushion, and I'm very glad that I had a father with very good business practices who made sure I didn't get swept away in this mess. But I understand all the arguments about worrying about the business and worrying about constructing the business. But at the end of the day, this is a fascinating moment in human history, and I can't help it. I'm a historian. And you look back at certain moments which end up in the history books, moments of occupation, moments of illness. And I wonder at the end of the day, after being tried so intensely, what kind of person am I going to be on the other side of it? And so the greatest worry, the greatest concern I have for my children, for myself, for my friends, is what kind of person are we going to be? When we look back at that moment, how are we going to look at ourselves? Who were we during that moment? Because it's when all the comforts and all the cushions and all the protection is stripped away that we see who we really are. And that's what I work on every morning. Every morning I wake up and I think, who is the person I want to be on the other end of this? And how do I get to be there? Am I going to be the person who holed up in my house and hid and just worried about me? Or am I going to be the person who took advantage of this to show that I'm more than just someone who's closed up in her little cocoon? And that's what I think. That's what we do.
Thank you. It's so important. Also, especially right now, I think it's so important to be there for other people, for the people who are lonely. Make a call or two, during the day to just find out how those people are that are living on their own, or maybe someone who needs something. They don't have funds to make ends meet. We had a friend calling the other day. I don't have money anymore. Yeah, of course, I'm going to help you out. So solidarity is really, really, really important. And it's true what you're saying. We're probably going to change. I think society will change quite a bit. In fact, I was going to ask Damien, how do you think travel will change? Like the traveler, the behavior of the travelers. Will travelers change? Like, will people change? What will change? Do you have an idea, or do you have a guess?
Well, first of all, this is going to pass. So we are going to go back to traveling, obviously. I think what this is teaching us, as I said earlier, regarding all of our businesses, is it's making us rethink. Okay. And so if travel is going to change, it's going to change because people who are in the travel industry are going to say, well, maybe I need to tweak my business a little bit. Okay. Is there an underserviced group of people that I'm not servicing? Okay. So I think that that's where the change will be. I think that if their business is struggling and they're in the travel industry, I think travel will change, so to speak, from the point of view that those people will relook at, what they're doing and be open to new sectors of people that travel. Yeah. That's what I do in global mobility. I mean, I did a case recently with a family with special needs. And my sister has children with special needs. And I was, I really made that a priority. And, I'm kind of becoming known now as the person that relocates, people with family members with special needs. So you can find your niche. And that will be, I think that will be part of the change, and it'll be part of the rebirth.
Beautiful. What do you think, Liz? Will travel change? Will the traveler attitude change? I mean, I'm asking you this also because I have spoken to a couple of travel agents that send us a lot of work, and they said, maybe our clients are not going to have money anymore to travel this year or next year or whatever because of this crisis, because a lot of businessmen are out of business, people are losing their jobs, especially in America. So how do you think this will affect the attitude as well of the travelers? Will our clients, our target change?
I think you and I don't work in as much of the mass tourism world, which is where I think the hit will come. I think even though, notwithstanding that the financial situation of a closed economy has hit everybody, I think the change is going to be in the mass tourism, where there has been just a very clarion call to just everybody should be on a boat, everybody should be on a plane, everybody should be in these sites, everybody should be traveling all the time. And it got to a point where, I mean, I don't remember if we ever chatted about it, Bar Papagallo, but pretty much every conversation I had with my fellow guides is this is unsustainable. So in a certain sense, while it's a huge hit for the travel business. The travel business had grown to a point where we already heard Venice trying to figure out what it was going to do with these cruise ships, and we already know in Rome the number of cruise ships is shocking. So I think this is going to actually give us a natural minute, because people are going to be reluctant to travel. People are going to have problems with money. The mass tourism will have problems with money for traveling, but there is also, frankly, so much fear spread regarding the virus that the idea, if you were to open the Vatican museums tomorrow and say, come on in, no problem, who would walk in there? Like, besides me? Like, no one's going to be, they look at that, and we've been, for the moment, we're trained to go, oh my gosh, small space, lots of people, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I was doing an Edward Monk scream that went there. Anyway, I think we'll have a little moment where we can kind of reset and maybe recalibrate what it means to be a tourist. And again, it's kind of what I was saying at the beginning, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but it's been an increasing concern with me that this experience of travel is less of a, really getting to know the beauty and the intricacy of the, if you will, the portata in front of you. And it's become much more of a kind of gobbling type of business, like an all-you-can-eat bar. And so the idea of working, what I keep thinking about is how in the travel business can we reset, because we're going to have to reset it no matter what. How can we reset that even eventually when we come back to mass tourism, because people have short memories and they'll forget about this, and in a couple of years we'll be back to the cruise ships. But how can we reset so that people approach tourism with a little bit less of a gobble mode and a little bit more of a kind of a connoisseurship and appreciation mode?
Okay. So we all have something to think about. Well, that's interesting. What do you think, Damien? I mean, that's an interesting thought. Liz is just sending out there.
And I agree with what she said, in that before all of this happened, I was down by the Trevi Fountain, and it was unbearable.
They were to close it.
I mean, they were supposed to close it. And also I was at Piazza di Spagna because I go to the center a lot. And I mean, I could barely move. And I mean, I've been in Rome long enough to remember when it was pleasant to walk in the center. Okay. I mean, I haven't been here as long as a friend of mine who remembers when you could drive across Piazza di Spagna. Okay. But I mean, it's just this. I mean, it's uncomfortable. So I think Elizabeth is onto something when she's talking about this might get rid of some of the madness that has creeped into, the numbers at least.
Okay.
And without shutting down and saying, no, you can't come, we don't want any more, we only take 20,000 tourists a day or whatever, it might allow for us to find a way to reset things. And it may just reset naturally. I mean, I really do. The level of fear that I see out there, I'm not so sure we're going to be. The Vatican Museums, the Louvre, these top 4 or 5 museums in the world with, some of the fluctuation of 20, 30,000 visitors a day. I'm not so sure they're going to be on the number one list for a while, because frankly, this fear of contact, or in the very likely and yet problematic scenario, what if social distancing requires that the Vatican Museums can only have 3,000 visitors a day? Then what?
We're also talking, sorry to interrupt, we're also talking about maybe Paris or London, where people, I mean, they're much better organized, no? I mean, we have people watching also from India, tour guides from India or Latvia, where they don't have these kinds of problems. But the problem they have is they don't know how to feed their families, how to actually get by until the next month. So those are kind of the main fears I think a lot of people have, or they have an agency and it's going out of business. They had to lay off a lot of the personnel in other countries as well. I'm saying not only in Italy. So what can they do? Like pull out of the hat new strategies, new plans, new ideas, new ways of how to reinvent themselves. Tell me, Damien.
Well, I agree with what you said in that I know people and they've literally gone to zero income. Okay. And it's because in a certain way they were in that what I call the business as usual mode. Okay. And I think that that's a mode we have to break out of. Okay. I know one person at the moment who's having great difficulty running her business from home because she didn't skill up from the point of view of technology. So she's still very paper-based. And so she doesn't have certain things in her house. And this is contributing to, other problems at the moment. And so I said, what I said at the beginning, in that this is a moment for us all to reflect on where are we at. Okay. I'm in global mobility, and global mobility in a lot of ways is like a dinosaur. It's a very old sector. They still talk about giving a welcome bag to the new people that come, like a little bag with a paper guide inside. Okay. And millennials don't know what paper is. Okay. A lot of the home searches are still, a lot of the home searches are still done face to face. But I've been doing home searches during this period because I worked with people and I told them that I would need a virtual tour of their inventory. So at least I've been able to keep certain aspects of the service going during this lockdown. Okay. Because I embraced a lot of the aspects of doing things online. Okay. So it's a moment for people to recalibrate and to think, okay, if there's another crisis, whatever the crisis is, am I ready for the next crisis? Or am I going to get comfortable and go back to how it was, and then there's another crisis and I'm back in the same situation? So it's about future-proofing yourself as much as you possibly can, because you cannot, I don't think you can do it 100%, but you can certainly do things that put you in a better position. I mean, are you trying to sell a product for which there's very little market anymore? Or maybe the product or the service needs to be updated. Okay. And so that's why I encourage people to be part of masterminds. Okay.
We actually have a mastermind group. I think this is essential. It's so important because that's where a lot of ideas come together, and you can actually work on them and build teams and stuff like that. It's awesome. Yeah.
And I think if you're going to be part of a mastermind, I think you need to be careful of two things. First of all, it's good to be in a mastermind with people that are ideally not in your sector. Okay. Because you get fresh ideas, fresh input. And another thing is you shouldn't be the smartest in the group. Okay. Because you need to no, you do. You need to be learn. I don't have all the answers. So I want to be part of a group where I'm learning from other people. And maybe they learn a little bit from me too. That's nice. That would be nice.
Damien, I thought you had the crystal ball.
No. If I had a crystal ball, then things would be very different. No one has a crystal ball. I mean, you know, if I had told you before Christmas, you know, in the month of March, we're going to be stuck in our houses and we can't go out, you would have said, okay, this guy is crazy. Okay. And yet here we are. Okay. So, but what are we doing with the time? Now, as I said, it's okay to recognize that you have fear and panic. Okay. Because we're human. Okay. I mean, I have moments too where I think, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, how long is this going to go on for? Now they're talking about the virus is going to come back in October. We could go back into lockdown. And then I have to stop that. You know, I have to stop it and say, okay, if that happens, I'll deal with that. But I have to try to do things today that will put me in the best position possible to deal with a potential lockdown in October. I can't worry about that in April. And so
no, that's very good. Yeah, exactly. That's you have a very, very good point. Liz, what do you think? I mean, we need to really pull out our self-esteem now, no? Our self-confidence, because especially people who are completely stuck need to unfreeze and they need to step out of their comfort zone and start thinking that there are other things out there. Damien just said something very important, and that is that we all have 24 hours, but it depends on every single one of us what we're going to do with those 24 hours. We can either sit in front of the television and we'll get rained on by all this horrible news, or we can actually step up and decide that we want to get out of the situation and we want to actually create something new for ourselves, possibly with the skill set that we have already, with abilities that we already have. What do you think, Elizabeth? What would you suggest to someone who's really stuck and needs to get unstuck?
Well, I think in the lockdown mode, I mean, the best thing we can do is start to get the hang of these technologies, which obviously are the way of the future. So, but when you were mentioning before, the problem of the business in Latvia, I mean, there is an opportunity, and this is not in my interest as a Roman, but there is a tremendous opportunity here in this new world where this cluster travel, at least for a couple of years, is not going to be a thing. To offer, this is a good moment for places that are not traditionally crowded to be playing up the idea that they're not. I mean, for the first time in God knows how long in travel history, the hotspots, Paris, New York, London, Rome, Florence, Venice, they're not going to be number one on people's list. They're going to be looking for other things. So if you've got a business that can valorize something that's someplace else, this is a great moment to be saying, don't, you just think this is a good moment to be thinking about the language that people are going to want to hear when they're traveling again. So they're not going to want to hear skip the line, because they don't want to hear line, because they don't want to see a million people in there. They don't want there to be a line, right? They want to be something new. To find ways. There are many ways that people can talk about where they are, what they can see, what they can experience, what it means to travel in this, now that you've been sprung, where would you like to be? The places that have changed after, there's 2 months of excessive human activity, places that have changed. I think there are a lot of possibilities for people to be rethinking and repositioning, to be able to pull some of the desire. Some people will really want to travel, but they're going to want to go someplace different. And it's not going to be anymore, you have to go to Rome and you have to go to London, because you have to go back and you all go to the same places. I mean, a little bit of our mindset is changing, at least for a little while. It's not going to last long, because people forget. But in this little moment, there is a possibility for people to insert themselves and create a niche that otherwise people would be like, Rome, Latvia.
Absolutely, I so agree. Yeah, I so agree. Airbnb has actually started with experiences, so like online experiences now. They have people take clients through the cities virtually, and or maybe you can actually teach something that or I mean, there's so many possibilities. Like, the world is open to new things, as you just said. I think that's fabulous what you just suggested. That's amazing. Excuse me, I just wanted to see, we have a few people here. We actually have Khalid. Yes, Khalid refunded all his clients and he stopped watching the news. Very good. Khalid, tell us where you're from, please. And then we actually have Mary, La Piccola Mary, Francesca, then we have Elisabetta. I agree. Though I have become jobless, I'm very curious about what we're experiencing right now. Okay, then we have Sophia, very good topic. And Inger, just this morning I was thinking about this. The crowds were unbearable. Hopefully there will be more sustainable ways of traveling and working after this. Okay. And then less people, more nature. Yes. I think the world is changing for the better, because people are becoming more aware, like self-aware as well. I always say that it's a huge opportunity that we have been given to step back and to kind of also find out who we are really and what we really need. So we need to ask ourselves the right questions, I believe. Like, what do I need really? Because people complain, I don't have money, but truth is, we have not been spending any money. You can't go to the restaurant, you can't go out to the movies, you can't do a lot of the things that you have done before. So I mean, we're like, we're saving a lot of money as well. Of course, we all need money to eat and to feed our kids, and also to pay rent and our mortgage and this and that and the other. But I mean, before you panic, try to find out where you're at right now and what it is that you need, and then go from there. Yes, Damien.
It's important that you don't get into the yes, but mentality. Because sometimes when I'm talking to people and I say, well, you could do this, they say, oh, yes, but. Okay. Many people have built businesses with very little money. Okay. We have a wonderful thing, and it's called the internet. Okay. And when you connect to the internet, you basically have the entire world as your potential clients. Okay. And so, but you have to be willing to put in the effort. Okay. Nothing gets built overnight. People look and say, oh, she's very lucky, he's very lucky. But when you go and you examine those people, you normally find that they are doing what a lot of other people are not willing to do. Okay. And now that's not to place blame on anybody. Okay. Because sometimes you can put in a lot of effort and the results are minimum. But I think that if you put in the right effort in the right places, you will start to see results. Okay. Social media still organically, without having to pay a lot of money, can still produce results. Okay. I was talking to an English teacher recently, and she was complaining the schools are closed. She's got no cash. And I said, well, are you on Instagram? Are you doing English word of the day on Instagram? And she said, no. I said, well, get on Instagram. You know, she didn't even have a Skype account. Get a Skype account. You know, start putting yourself out there. I mean, you have to think, who is my client and where is my client? And you've got to go there, you know, and you have to review and rethink your networking strategies. Okay. Because 95%, I think, is what they say, of where you go in life is connected to who you know. Okay.
Really?
And yeah,
that's interesting. Really?
Yeah, that's what that they're the statistics. Okay. And I mean, even speaking personally, I have gotten business because somebody has introduced me to somebody. Okay. And so, you know, look at your networking events, you know. And I told her, I said, you know, if you go to a restaurant and you see that the menu maybe is not written, you know, so well in English, you know, maybe you can kindly offer your services to translate the menu properly. Okay. I mean, look for opportunities. That's essential, you know, more than ever now. That's what we have to do. You know, we gotta put our foot on the gas. I mean, for those of, you know, who cannot go back to a business that's going to be there, if they are in a bad economic situation now, their business is struggling, there's only one thing to do, and that is to roll up your sleeves and put your foot on the gas and start moving forward as best you can.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, Damien. You know, I mean, we've all been there. No, we've all been, you know, and we build ourselves and our businesses and our connections and so on. I mean, Liz did the same thing. You know, I mean, you have so many different businesses and jobs and so on, every single one of us, and that's exactly what I think we need to do. Now we're running out of time here, so I wanted to kindly ask you, what is the last piece of advice that you would like to give our audience? Liz, what is the last piece of advice?
Well, I guess in relation to what we were just talking about, this networking and building yourself up, my rule has always been, if somebody asks me to do something, if it's out of my comfort zone, if I don't really know how to do it, I just say yes, and then I make sure I can do it when the time comes. That's been
I love it. Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Damien.
I think of a relative in mine in Ireland who used to tell me, you know, as long as your heart is beating, there's hope. Okay. So, I mean, as long as you can get out of bed, you've got the energy, you can rebuild, restart, reinvent, recreate, because you've got you. I mean, you're the key.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I also have a message for our audience, and that is 10% is what happens and 90% is how you deal with it and what you do with it and how you get out of it. And I learned the hard way. I had a lot of hurdles to overcome, especially when my daughter was smaller. And I can really tell you, ever since I've adopted this, the 1090, you know, my life has become miraculous. Really, everything has fallen into place. It's amazing. And now my tourism business is on its knees. You know, I have a cooking school in Rome, right by the Tiber, and that's shut down. So we're at zero. but I'm still optimistic, and I'm here giving webinars because I also have a third business, that's the Outer Coaching Academy, and we're actually preparing a really cool course for people to pick themselves back up and get started and learn something new. So this is the moment, guys. This is the moment where we need to, it's a moment of truth, where we actually need to, think out of the box and go to action.
And surround yourself with people that will build you up.
Yes, okay. I love that. Thank you so much.
Be very careful in sharing your dreams with people that are going to drag you down and tell you, oh, forget about it. It's too hard. Why bother?
Well, those are the people who try to protect you.
Yeah, and you can recognize that that's their way of protecting you, but mentally you can say thank you, but no thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's exactly right. Okay, do we have any last questions? Let's see. Nikki, Flo, you're great, guys. Thank you. Sylvia, thank you very much. Tatiana, thank you very much. Very useful. Hope to see you again. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye, everybody.
To have had you.
Rome.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Happy birthday, Rome.
Happy birthday to Rome.
We're all going to celebrate. We should have all had our glass of wine ready. Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
Everybody. And I hope to, see you soon, you guys, somewhere in Rome.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay.